That's when you know when you hear that song, you know what's coming up. It's the Free Midfield podcast, the match report, hosted by your boys from the Free Midfield today, Kojo and my boy Darren. How you doing, bro?
I'm not too bad, man. But once in a million appearance, I'm out here again.
So it's good to have you back, my brother. So welcome back onto the pod, of course. For those of you that don't know, Darren is DOG alongside myself and Cahill. So when you see the number 3 midfield, when you ask questions like who's the third member, listen, that's the third member. That's the way right
It's
there.
usually me. My attendance is poor.
That's cool, man. And just like Sami Zayn is the honorary Oos in the bloodline, we have an honorary member of 3 midfield over here. That's a wrestling reference for people that don't get it. OD from the D&D Footy Factory. What you doing, bro?
Melancholic for the game. It would be a mean to me.
You said that the weather's doing pathetic fallacy. For those A-level English out there.
Only good thing that happened was Inter winning. Liverpool lost. Liverpool's women got clapped 6-0 by you lot's women. Yeah.
There you go. That's Uncle Still over there. The D is for doom and gloom, which is happening on the west side of Merseyside right now. I mean, to be fair, it's happening all over Merseyside because on the other side there's headlocks going on, like there's Randall in the building. But we'll get to that. Double D, we'll start with you because I think we'll get to the derbies a bit later on.
You don't have to start with me, though. Let's
get your pain out there early.
Pull the plaster off the scab. You'll feel better. It's just get it over and done with.
Go around the room. It's cool. There's some technicalities going on my end too. No, I'm playing.
Liverpool went to the Amex and we're hit for free. 3-0 loss. Goals by Sonny March with a double, and Danny Welbeck with a lovely goal as well, which kind of confused me when I saw it because I didn't know he still had that in his locker or had it in his locker in general. But either side, it was a quite dominant win for Brighton. Now, before we get to Brighton's good side, obviously, Double D, you're the Liverpool fan here. I have to just ask the question. It's a very big question, but what's going on?
How long we got?
give me the nitty-gritty.
We're here for probably about 50 minutes. I could literally, I can kill you guys and talk about Liverpool for the rest of this podcast, bro. I heard it's a safe place here, so
it is a safe place. This is therapy over here. Okay, we'll focus on the game. What went wrong with the game? Because I mean, selection, was there approach? Are you guys running out of steam?
I don't think they were running out of steam before the season started. In regards to look at this guy, David Moyes.
It's true. It's true. Just roll up to the thing defeated. Like that is Moyes area.
What a time.
In regards to the selection, with the injuries at hand. Not really, unless maybe Carvalho was in there. We've not really used him recently. I don't think many people were too surprised with the selection. With Van Dijk out, with Gomez, the only real proper good game Gomez has had this season was against City at Anfield. So realistically, you knew who the keeper, back four, etc. was going to be. You knew the team. So I've got a massive issue with the team because that's what's there at the moment. There was negligence shown, not just this summer just gone, but for the last few seasons, in the fact that after winning the league, they never tried to change it around them. They tried to replenish. And Bar Thiago has literally mainly been the same faces. Those faces, a lot of them are injury prone. So then when the others that actually are injury prone are not playing well, this is what you're going to get. Before the season started, I'm not sure if it's the one that you would email me on, but I did say before the season started that I'm a little worried about this season. Usually you go into it and you think the way how Manchester City and Liverpool have been so dominant, you'd think they would be the top three again. I did say, with the fact that we weren't going to go and get a midfielder, I said they made a probably actually two, that I said that I'm worried that this could be the season where things do not go as planned. A couple after winning the title, we had the injuries. We were able to come back and do something, but and come third, obviously far from being in the title race. But in regards to just the whole setup, every season is different, and certain times you can play a certain way, but points don't come, and therefore I was thinking, is this the season where there's going to be some decisions that go away, little things in matches that go away? And so far, unfortunately, it has been, which makes it even more annoying that when the team has been performing at optimum level, that Manchester City has been just that tad bit better with it being 1.11. So Saturday was just a combination of it. Liverpool had like 38 or 39% possession. That's unheard of unless they're playing Man City, for instance. And even then, they probably get into like the early to mid 40s. From the first whistle, it was like watching. If you don't remember when Barcelona come to Liverpool in the Champions League when João Julio was in charge, when they had Fabio Rockenbach and the players there, yeah, and they scored that goal where Liverpool didn't touch the ball for 3.5 minutes.
Yeah.
Like I'm watching Liverpool and Brighton Liverpool, and I'm getting like vibes from that. From the first
Just,
whistle, they
just to
had.
double check, was that?
You would have thought Brighton were top of the league and Liverpool were this mid-table fodder. Well, they are technically mid-table fodder. We couldn't get the ball off them. Getting the ball off them. First
Was it
shot,
Overmars that scored that goal, by the way?
I think it was over Marget that completed that.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
Well, it might even have been Rockham. I remember it finished 3-1 and they smoothed off. And that wasn't even that Barcelona team, but obviously because it was still possession based, they came and they made a mockery of us. And from the first whistle, they were just onto us. Like we had men behind the ball, like we were playing a Champions League two-legged tie, and we won the first set 2-1, and we were trying to hold on. So we brought every man behind the ball, which is Brighton, you know. Don't get twisted, they got some great players, but whatever Potter created there, they shoot more under the Zerbi. Trossard isn't even in the team at the moment. Solly March under Potter used to always hit the woodwork and shoot over and that. Now he can't stop scoring. Yeah, I don't know what's got into Solomon. Yeah, man, like Solomon. And we just got moved to. They were moving the ball, passing triangles and whatnot. They had a couple efforts in the first half. Ferguson, Mitoma put one wide from some wicked pass by Levy Colwell through. And I see why my Chelsea people are angry that he was allowed to go out on loan, etc. And they were just doing the thing. But whatever the Serbians do, they shoot more, and they're much more of a threat now. Like they could take it to it, which is why I was so shocked at how, well, in the end, they fought back, but after that, they dealt with them. You get me? And it was just a combination of a lack of confidence, Klopp sometimes being hesitant to change, to tweak certain things, and with the injuries, that is what you're left with. There's not too much that you can change it with. And we just got beaten and beaten badly. And it sums up how the season has gone. So how the season has gone so far. That Welbeck goal, doing his Matt Letizia impression, was just the straw that the game was over already anyway. Come on, but like it's just so bad. It's just so bad. Like we're gonna, as we're filming this, we're an hour away from FA Cup replay with rules, and the way things are going at the moment, we're likely to get tucked in. We should be out already anyway if that all had stood, but it is. But yeah, no, it's just sad to watch. But to this extent, I never thought that it would be like this. But some fans aren't shocked because when you're not making reinforcements in the area of the pitch, I need the most reinforcements, the midfields are not protecting the back four. And that's been what we've done so much. And people say, oh, injuries to heavy metal, etc. Yeah, partially, but also a lot of players have got injured as well from challenges that have been made by other players. He has that for how long now? Partey fell on him when he played Arsenal. You get what I'm saying? He came back, he got injured a game in training. So that's not to do with metal weather. That's just in terms of how they're lucky. Sometimes teams will have players that will be out injured. But yeah, it's just so bad. The defence are not firing. Too many people off at the back. Midfield aren't covering. And this is what you get.
I suppose also you could argue that this league, the way it's set up, at the moment, it's the worst time to be a team in transition.
Yeah.
Because there's so many people waiting for you to drop a couple of percent to get you back from what happened last season. You can say the same actually with City, that they probably dropped up a couple of percent, and then out of nowhere, You got them losing derbies. You got Arsenal there. You got Newcastle in and amongst it. So I think Liverpool are just they're going through a really difficult transition. Arguably the worst time they can go through it. But I also think just mentally that battle of City, I think, has just done your players out because you had to be at 99.9% on a bad day. So you've gone from that to not even being able to get to those levels consistently. And I just think really it's got to the point where it's like the players are spent, whether it be physically or mentally, it looks spent. And I don't know whether there's a change in tactical direction. There always be, because I watch Liverpool every week. But they look like they play slightly different football. They look like they will rely on their midfield more to make the play, which they didn't do before. They look like the fullbacks aren't getting the defensive cover they once had. So they're constantly being exposed, and not just Trent. Trent is an easy target, but Robertson has been miles off it this season for what I've seen as well. So I think that's also been an issue. I can't work out whether you're playing two up front with Salah and Nunez or one behind, or if you're playing three at the top. Salah's not getting the goal scoring opportunities and also the goals that he did before. It's almost as if Haaland's come like the boogeyman and it scared the crap out of him. He's like, what the hell? What's this? This is usually my land. And now he's struggling with the confidence. Also, you lost Mane, who you could argue is probably at the peak Liverpool team in their top three players. And so you replaced him with somebody who is a project. I do believe will come good. I think Nunez will come good. But he needs time on top of a team that is rebuilding. I just don't think that the league can give you that patience anymore. And I think it's just the perfect storm has come to Liverpool, unfortunately. For them, not for me. I'm enjoying it. But
in regards to Marvel, the way how the midfield parts at the Red Sea, there's no position in spacing properly with the midfield, and they're so easy to get through. So even though we were challenged on all four fronts so deep into last season, Mane never had his best season. So obviously he would have been a help, but what's going on is far beyond. It's far beyond Mane. Yeah, everybody says that so Ronaldo's a big loss, more because of his availability. But even still, without him last season, we went to the wire in all four competitions. So I think that one is too easy a name to call. But obviously, because of his availability, because Ronaldo very rarely got injured. But yeah, it's just the problem's just like Harvey Elliott, we loaned out to Blackburn. He played as a right-sided inside forward all that time that he was there. I think some great manager. We brought him back here with somebody who played him in midfield. So the game he's tracked back best in was when we played City, and we were able to get a 1-0 win there, keep a clean sheet at home. But the midfield not covering properly. Fabinho, this has been his worst year since he's been at Liverpool. People are just trying to buy him now, and he was the guy that will just clamp people or not. Thiago's meant to be the guy further up the pitch. That yes, he can put in a tackle, yes, he can make interceptions, but he's meant to be playing that what they call the hockey assist. And he's come to be so deep now. There's just no creativity in the team. Pep Linders, I don't know why they did it, and Klopp said he admitted to doing it, and Klopp said they did it as well. They thought Mo Salah, who led the league in goals and led the league in assists last season, will be better to have him stuck at the start of the season on the byline. So he's further away from the goal. One of the games we saw that he didn't do that was against Rangers in the Champions League. He was going to in how many minutes? So these tactical changes, for changing something that did so well from last season, absolutely no reason. So Salah's not getting into those goal scoring positions. There's no creativity from the midfield. Robertson's been getting assists, but defensively hasn't been as good this season. And Trent has not been consistent. He played great the other day against Leicester, locked up Harvey Barnes, and the next game is like it's just too much inconsistency. And as he's saying, this is the worst season. Newcastle are on it, Arsenal are on it. United are even keeping clean sheets with flipping Luke Shaw playing as a left-sided centre half. This is not the season for it, and this is why it looks worse because we'll get to Arsenal later, but when Leicester won the league, everyone was repeatedly talking about how bad the other teams were. So though obviously Arsenal be completely brilliant and clearly deserve to be top, we do have to take into consideration as well United's inconsistent start. Now they're sorting things out. How bad Liverpool are, how bad Chelsea are, and obviously the points that Manchester City are dropping as well. It's the worst season for it in terms of it being so competitive. And we're lucky we're only 9th right about now. We've got a match game. They're calling it El Clasico on Saturday. He's got Chelsea. The two of us playing in 9th and 10th. I have no idea how this is going to go. We're both have done each other at the moment, so we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, it's just big problems with Liverpool that look like there's so much to resolve. I don't think it will come together till next season, and then we've got a team that wins us every year in Europe. Real Madrid in the Champions League. So I have no idea what we're going to get out of the season in January, which is sad, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, that's a bit on Liverpool. We'll go to Brighton quickly because they deserve some praise. Darren, I'll leave Brighton with you. I think after they lost to Manchester City, bar one game, I think was a loss to Villa. They have scored 2 or more plus goals in every game, and obviously getting good results. So I want to talk about the manager because Solly March.
Zerbi.
Yeah, exactly. Because Solly March has improved his goal tally and his assist tally already in such a short amount of space. You know, he's close to beating his all-time assist record in Premier League, his personal one anyway. Just a bit of praise on the manager because he got into a job where Potter was looked at as a irreplaceable manager in that Brighton job. He's come in and he's done one hell of a job. I mean, just to sing his praises.
Yeah. So on that, firstly, I think we need to praise the structure put in place so that Zerbi can come in and just kick the ball rolling from the very start. I think that shows a fantastic continuity and a vision of the team, so they know when they have a knockback, how they're going to replace them, and whether they're not doing that thing that so many top teams do, where they just cycle through managers and hope something sticks. In terms of De Zerbi, the way he plays, the way he sets his team out, is that he kind of creates transitional moments without actually them not being in transition. So that he almost invites teams on to press, and the players are tactically astute and know how to pass their way through the press. But they've also got some fantastic one-to-one dribblers, namely Matoma, who I think is actually, I read somewhere that he has like a PhD in dribbling. so like, theoretically, he's about it too. So it's like, just a team that knows its strengths, know how to play. A team that is getting better, it seems, every week. And I want to give a shout out as well to the young forward, is it Evan Ferguson? He's got 4 goals, 4 assists this season, his first pro season at the highest level. But you can't knock that from a team that's been like historically struggling with the number 9s with the forwards to have somebody like that with Trossard throwing sulks out here as well. Fantastic stuff. But the thing is, like, the stock for Brighton players individually, collectively, has never been so high. You've got McAllister for World Cup win. You've got Caicedo being that guy. You've got Lallana refreshed at 10 when he comes in. You've got Matoma, who was playing, I think he was playing like sort of like Japanese version of sort of like lower leagues like 3-4 years ago. Yeah. Now just being like, where did this guy come from? You've got Evan Ferguson's previously discussed, and Levi Colwill, which was indicative of Chelsea's failures, as it is also Brighton's positives. But he's settled in fantastically well, and left side of the back, really helping them build up from the back when they sort of start those sort of false transitions that I talked about beforehand. But yeah, they're on course to have their best season ever, and do you know what? All power to them.
Absolutely. We'll move on. Brentford beat Bournemouth 2-0. Don't think there's much to say about that. I will say this though: Gary Lineker made a funny joke about Ivan Toney when Ivan scored his penalty. He said, "You would bet your house on Ivan Toney scoring penalties," or rather, he did. But anyway, we'll move on. I'm going to put 2 results together. I'm going to ask one question, and any of you can go for it. Nottingham Forest 2, Leicester 0. Wolverhampton Wanderers 1, West Ham 0.
Who
Who goes first, David Moyes or Brendan Rodgers? Darren,
Can
raise
I-
hand up. Darren, take the
Can
floor.
I?
Go for it.
So I think Leicester should have sacked Rodgers first
Mhm.
because of where Leicester have been historically in the Premier League not that long ago. They were battling for fourth and fifth not that long ago. But their team has gone really stale, really stale. So there's that. So they should have gone retrospectively, but take into account what I'm about to say. But I would say West Ham are having a worse season now than Leicester are having now, even considering you could argue that Leicester fallen from a further point. West Ham had a fantastic season last season, but not only that, they'd spent a lot of money this season. Yes, they've had injuries, but they've bought some fantastic players: Skamaka, Paqueta, Cornet. But they've also bought some really bad players like Tilo Kehler, which oh god, he's terrible. And they consistently play Sufal at right back and Souček in centre midfield. Souček who cannot pass, and you've got a player like Paqueta who is a creative hub in year 10, who should really be playing 10. And you've got Ben Rama as well who can't seem to get consistent minutes, even though he looks like one of West Ham's best players every time he does play. So I feel like David Moyes acted a bit like somebody who finally got a load of money and went to a candy shop and bought everything and didn't really know how to use it. Whereas I think Leicester, in my opinion, is a harder job to be a Leicester manager than me to be West Ham manager this season, because West Ham have the tools to be where Fulham are. And they should be where Fulham are, but it's because they've just massively got it wrong in the transfer market, and I think also the style of football they have no longer suits the manager they currently have, and that has also become an issue because you've got these flair players at the top, but at the back you've still got Craig Dawson, Cresswell playing, who have been great service for the club, especially Cresswell. But Cresswell was in his mid-30s. He's playing on the left back, arguably one of the most important positions in the pitch. You've got Craig Dawson, who, one, doesn't really want to be at West Ham anymore, from what I've read, because he wants to go back up north. Two, has had one good Premier League season, which happened to be last season, but we'd all known him from being that sort of yo-yo defender playing at West Ham. So for him to be seen as a decent player playing for a team that has got European goals, that's an issue. You've got Igbona who's past it. You've got Tiro Kerr who is just a bad signing on all fronts. And you've got a Gerd who's good, very good actually, but very injury prone as well. So they've not had a consistent defence. They're not playing, in my opinion, their best keeper. I think their best keeper is Areola. I think if you play Areola and a slightly better defence, a slightly different defence, a different profile, you can push the team up a little bit. Not every team has to press, but their better players are on the other end of the pitch, and you need to get them in the positions where they're more dangerous with the ball. And the only way you do that, and the easiest way to do that, is to push the team out of the pitch. But when you've got people like Dawson and Cresswell in your defence, Sufal, well, Ben Johnson is right there to play left back and right back. It's you're basically you're putting one hand behind your back. I don't know whether that's because they've got Mark Noble in there doing transfers, even though he's never done it before. And as a Man United fan, I've heard the noise, I know the song, and it's never a good song. It doesn't end well, so they need to sort that out. But I think West Ham. If I'm honest right now, if I'm owner of West Ham, I'm calling Ange Postecoglou. I'm going, listen, how much money do you want? How much money do you want to be manager of West Ham? Because I don't think Moyes has the tools to change this. Whereas I do think Rodgers will end up mid-table with Leicester, lower mid-table, but I think they're going to end up maybe sort of between 14th to 10th. Whereas I think West Ham are really in trouble if they continue with Moyes as their manager, because he's doing that thing that he did with Haller, with Skamaka, where he started to lose his nerve with the striker because he's not feeding the striker properly, and dropping him for Antonio, who is very difficult in terms of consistency and in terms of actually being able to help the team build because his touches are fantastic. And also, I don't think he's at the level he was years before. Whereas I think with Skamaka, you've got someone who's holding up plays fantastic. You can score from inside and outside the box. You just need consistency, regular service, and also belief in the team. I don't think he has that from the manager.
Well, that will do. We'll let you go on Leicester. Darren pretty much summed up West Ham beautifully there. A lot of hit and misses, a lot of questionable decisions being made by the club and by the manager. Sounds like a Drake album. But I want to ask you about Wilfred Ndidi, because this is someone who obviously his profile grew in the Premier League, being known as one of the best DMs. But me personally, in the last 2 years, I've not seen anything near that. Not only him, people like Tielemans are looking to leave. Maddison probably gone at some point. Is it a case where not only Rodgers but the squad needs a whole reset? I mean, do you start again, or should they be doing their best to tie down these players and maybe just find a core and build around that?
Rodgers, obviously, in regards to what Ryan was just saying, I think it will be Moyes that will go. If one of those two are to be the next to go, I'd more lean towards Moyes, who's also done this strangely timed interview with Stephen Bartlett as well, which I need to watch. I'm sure he was talking about West Ham and what he needs to do with West Ham, but also shedding a lot of light on why he got hired by Man United as well. The way it happened, he didn't even interview. He's insinuating Ferguson basically phoned him and told him you're the next manager of Man United, etc. And then that was it from there. But in regards to Leicester, as you were saying, in regards to camp, I don't think everything's 100% in the camp. If Maddison wasn't injured, it'll be interesting if Newcastle. There's still time in the window. There's still 2 weeks left, whether or not, especially Newcastle, part of the money that they want, because Newcastle showing they're not going to pay silly money for anyone. Leicester, if they were to let go of their plans, that's what they want, big money there. Tielemans was basically said something a few months ago that basically he's been held hostage by Leicester, and he wanted out. He's going to have to stay there. He said when the day comes to talk, he'll talk. They signed Yannick Vestergaard part of last season, and everyone thought it was a really good purchase. And has anybody seen him? Is he still alive? Because some of their defending is comical, especially at set pieces, and they hired a set piece coach. You think when you've got one of the tallest defenders, I think only Dumbo is taller than Vestergaard in the Premier League, he could help you clear the ball away on corners. But I don't know, because 1 week they look attacking wise, there's not really an issue consistently with them, because that's some players when they look great on the counter attack, even without Maddison there. But defensively, there's always a worry. But I think in terms of the FA Cup win and just what he did, because when he took the job, actually, I think it was the second game he had in charge. Me and D-Man actually came to record Free in Midfield. That must have been early 2019. We actually came up to Yilbits to record Free in Midfield, and they beat. I can't remember who they beat, but Vardy scored on Tuesday, right? Early on, football changed. They went on, they got the FA Cup again. I think there's credit in the bank there. Also, as well, the contract he's on would take a lot. It would be the compensation, apparently, relatively is very, very high. So I don't see him going anywhere yet. They'll be safe because they've got enough people to score goals and that there. But it is a bit of a strange one. When you look at who's above them, even if they had been performing better, they might not be higher than maybe about 7th anyway. But it's a strange one. It's one that he insists playing Vardy, because Vardy's not scored in the league this season, has he? And you've got Daka there, and you've got Nacho there. And even sometimes you could play two of them up front. They got battered by Brighton, which a few months ago when McAllister got 2, and he went with 2 up top. So maybe he feels like leaving 2 open. But even if they just go with 1, they're open and concede anyway. So there's problems there. But I just think they get enough people that can score goals in the team to, as Darren said, finish about maybe 12th in the table. So his job will be safe. Would have been nice if they could have got past Newcastle, because a cup run obviously sorts a lot of things out, but outside of the league. But we'll see. what they could do in the FA Cup, for instance. They got through against England, but it's a strange one. It's a strange one, Leicester. But though it would seem like they haven't, because they've been far up in the table and they've come down. We've actually had a couple of seasons when they've performed above expectations. So I don't think the board are making as much of this poor start to the season as maybe the presser, because I feel that he's overachieved in some seasons since he's been there.
Right.
Also, they didn't spend any money really in the summer to do Leicester.
No,
whereas almost everybody did. So I think maybe the ownership are sort of understandably for various reasons. Maybe they're taking a little bit of a step back from Leicester. But yeah, so I think in the league like the Premier League is all when everybody's looking to get that extra 1%. If you're seen not really doing anything, even at the highest level, you feel it, and I think Leicester just feeling it. But I've got no worries about them staying up in the league. I think they'll be okay.
They'll still be all right. West Ham are in trouble unless they sack Mr. Moyes. We'll finish off on on one of the Saturdays before we leave one of the Saturdays for later on. Everton 1, Southampton 2. Now, Everton, if I must say, are in crisis on so many levels because their fans don't know how to behave. They're scaring Bill Kenwright out of the stadium, which is, if I'm right, an Everton legend, considering what he's done for the club in the past, in building them up to be a solid Premier League side. But they have lost 2-1 to Southampton. Away from all that negativity, there's one name that every time Southampton do something, there's one name you have to mention. And it's the free kick goal. It's the free kick goal, yeah? James Ward-Prowse is this close to kicking Beckham off that porch and just saying, "Get off! It's time for me to arrive." And I love
Go
on.
So, if you had to pick someone to take a free kick, 25 yards, left of centre, who are you picking? James Ward-Prowse or Juninho Pernambucano?
Wait, Juninho, man. Juninho. That's my boy. That's my boy. I'll never take away from Juninho. However, it's got to the stage where if someone says James Ward-Prowse, I'm just there like, hey, man.
You can't argue anymore.
It's the variations to the free kicks, though. It's not just always like he's going to try and pig it to the top corner. Some have gone low. There was one a few months ago against Wolves before. He was going to bend it, and he literally hit it like that, and then went into the top corner. It's a joke. And they spoke to him, and he said, "Yeah, he didn't really celebrate like enthusiastically because he said he's been doing that all week in training, waiting for." You know what I'm saying? That's what it's come to now. Visual Prowse is like, this is nothing for me. Like, you know what I'm saying? I can bend it over the wall, I can go under the wall, I can do like whatever. Even though I get good enough a day. I think they got a hand to it. The way he bent it, you would have thought that would have been a left footer's free kick. It's like, this guy is just a mockery. It's just a mockery. It's just and well done for him. I know Villa and a couple of other teams were interested at the start of last season. But credit to him for staying there, because usually, like, he's a good passer of the ball. He's versatile. He fills it at right back when they've got injuries as well. And you would have thought that he might have been one of them guys that I thought, oh no, I'm going to leave. He's never been like that. He just goes out and does his job. He's what, 27, 28 now? So he was still to get bought. There's still like 2 or 3 seasons in it. They can do something like a team that may finish much higher in the table. But he's doing his thing. Full credit to him, man.
Yeah. But also, realistically, like now, he carries on this stage, his stock is never going to be higher. And that's because he's at a team where he is front and centre, he's the star. He goes to Villa, it's a sideways move, but nobody really cares about him. And he kind of just sort of pops up when he scores a goal. Whereas Southampton, they need James Ward-Prowse. James Ward-Prowse is one of the few reasons why I think they might stay up. And so he's so important to that team, the way the team operates. He's played so many different positions, as you touched on, him playing right back, even on this current manager who loves the change of system. He played 3 at the back against City, played 4-2-1 against Everton. And being able to find a position in that team every week, whether he's playing a different role, still be that guy, still be 8 out of 10, and pull something to win the match for them, just shows how fantastic he is for that Southampton team. And it might be one of them ones where, like, you know how Pickford only plays well because he's playing for England because he needs that, or when he's playing for Sunderland because he needed that because it was his hometown club, and for Everton, like it's like, I think James Ward-Prowse might be one of those guys where it's like Southampton is his club. He needs to be there. That's where he gets the best out of him. So,
yeah, more power to him.
He's a good player, man. He's a good passer. He's footing and whatnot. I don't see like you know if that same type of player had been in Serie A or in the league, it would have been bought time ago. Even that to be a rotation or whatever, because and the thing is that when you've got someone that deadly on set pieces, that can bail you out. You don't have to be playing the game, but you might be able to nick a point. You might be able to get a win because of the quality that is there. It takes the feelings as well. But yeah, as Darren said, he's to Southampton, but he sure must be quickly asleep. Especially is the fact as well, he was left out of the 26 England squad. And you fully well knew that that's a Conor. Madison was carrying you fully well knew Conor Gallagher just went to sort his tan out. You get what I'm saying? You knew they were going to use something, but Ward-Prowse could have actually done something. Come off the bench, but so we'll see. But in terms of coach Lampard,
yeah.
Do you know what it is though? Do you know what it is with Lampard though? Everton is in such a state that Lampard is like down towards the bottom of the priority list. So it's like, yes, Lampard. If Lampard got sacked tomorrow, we would have this conversation about Everton in a month's time.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the thing. Nothing would change. Everything from when when Farhad Moshiri first took over Everton, steady Eddie club that nobody really wanted to play against. You knew if it was a 5:30 game and it was dark outside and Blaney and Kale were rocking up, it was going to be a long night. When they moved from that blueprint, when they moved from just being this horrible team to play against, Farhad Moshiri came in, it was like, I'm going to buy every 10 for 50 million. And just sort of diverted the team from what they was. That's when the problems really started for me. When they brought in Marcel Brands, and Marcel Brands wasn't really allowed to do his job, apparently. Because the transfers and the wages that some of these Everton players that have been on historically terrible. Yeah. You've got a team, it's got such a mixture of identities. It doesn't really know where it's coming or going. You have their best striker who is fit sometimes after one breakout season where they need more consistency from him. Like there's so many issues with that Everton team. Like it's sad. It's sad because Everton have never got relegated. They've been a stalwart of the Premier League years, and in my opinion, I think the competition will be lesser for when they're not in it next season because I think they're going down. But that for me, it's Lampard's fault, but it's Lampard's fault like 10%. It's like everybody else's fault way more. But I will say this on Ken Wright, that this is not the 80s, this is not the 90s. Like football fans need to learn how to behave, man. Like we're grown men with full-time jobs and kids at home, etc. Putting women in headlocks because they're in the director's position at your club and the club's doing badly. Like it's passion with one thing, but you got some damn sense. Do you know what I mean? Like they've got teams all over the country protesting their owners and not getting violent with them. And also, like, she's not an owner, but that's beside the point. There is no reason. There's no reason for somebody who's been so real and stuck by the club the way Ken Wright has to feel like he is not safe to come there. Somewhere he should be able to refer to as a second home is a disgrace. Also, considering he's an elderly man as well. Like it's disgusting, and the lack of decorum from mostly grown men. That's the thing. These men will be like in their 40s, 50s, etc. Have their 9 to 5 where they're tapping numbers into Excel spreadsheets 5 days of the week, and then on the 6th and 7th day of the week, like they ain't got any sense. It's ridiculous.
I agree, fully agree, and I mean, just for the owner's sake alone, I'm hoping things get better. Oh, also for Yerry Mina, let him go home, please. Goodness.
Like, what can he change? What can he change? What can he do? Like, he's one of the better players as well.
it's not like he's trying on. He's not trying on the football pitch. Oh goodness! But anyway, we'll go into the two big games of the weekend. We won't skip over. I'll go through these guys quickly. Chelsea beat Crystal Palace 1-0. Kai Havertz header. Aside from that, obviously Chelsea gave a debut to Benoit Badiashile, who played quite well, and also stole a player from Arsenal's hands, but that's for another discussion. And Newcastle, even though I know they deserve more spotlight, another clean sheet, another win, another great win, a last-minute winner from Alexander Isak, assisted by Callum Wilson, another win. And Eddie Howe is continuing to slap me and Cahill directly in the face.
I've always had stocks. You haven't. I've always had stocks. So.
That's why I didn't mention your name, because I know you've been good. You've been good. So
how is it? I'll say quickly because we need to do 2 big games up before we all chop out. How he gave a very honest interview when he came on Monday Night Football a couple of seasons ago, and he said basically he knows in terms of his management that his attacking style, etc., how good it was. We saw what he did with Fulham. We saw when King and them man were there, how devastating they were. Fraser with their counter attacks, but he went away and he went to spend time with a lot of managers to get better with his tactical sense and his defensive style. And I know he spent a lot of time with Diego Simeone, which is
that makes so much sense. That makes so much sense.
Which is how he was able to do the Trippier deal so smoothly. So in terms of what he's done to balance it out now you're seeing someone that stepped away from the game, didn't take that job like go to Scotland with Celtic and win the league or whatever. And he's put it together now. I'm just saying, because tell me, someone made a really good tweet. I can't remember what it was, and they said that it's scary what Newcastle are doing because they're in there at the Bayor stage.
Yeah, I remember that tweet. Yeah, I remember that tweet. Yeah.
You get what I'm saying, but they've not even gone all that. We smashed out ridiculous money yet, and they're holding it down. Yeah. Anyone listen to our radio show knows I've been gassing Dan Bird for how many seasons now. Because when you put him something on the left back, and this 6 or 7 done was chopping man at left back, you're not going to beat him in the air, good in the tackle, etc. And the organisation that he's got there, if they plug certain people in, it's very, very scary what Newcastle could do. And it's not even just the signings they've made, it's what he's got out of the people already there. Joe Linton, completely different position. Almiron, these people. It's like, what with this guy?
So win it.
Show us not getting booked the game anymore. You get what I'm saying? Great signing. We knew he was a good goalkeeper. They could have got that. They could have thought we've got enough money to get yellow black. You get what I'm saying? But they said no. We're going to get someone who's already paid in the Prem, £10 million. You get well within our restraints. So I rate everything that board have done there. But Newcastle, I felt Fulham were well worth a point, but it's all about grinding out results. It's a results business,
yeah, also, one thing on Fulham. I'm really glad that Marcus Silva is coming to the Premier League and getting his redemption from the way he got tossed out for Everton. Like, he's coming back with a vengeance. He's really rebuilding his reputation, because that Fulham team looked like they're going to stay up comfy, and that was more than they could have asked for when they first joined the Premier League.
Yeah, exactly. And they got Mitrovic putting defenders in headlocks while fans are putting other people in headlocks. But anyway, I digress. We will go. We'll go to the North London derby first. And the reason I want to go into that point first is because Arsenal have continued their great form. Arsenal are doing the thing. They're doing the damn thing properly, and they deserve to be where they are. But there's another club on the other side who I don't know how to describe them right now, but I'm going to bring up something for you guys. Just an image. It's going to take over our screen, so don't be shocked when you see it. Just this right here, right? So, firstly, Newcastle moving like a big 6 this season, so hey, you might as well put them in there. But barring a 2-2 draw away at Chelsea, who have struggled this season, they have lost against pretty much everyone that's challenging them at the higher level. Double. I'm going to ask a question. It's quite a big question. We'll try and keep it short though for time purposes. They have gone through Jose Mourinho and Antonio Conte, and I think we all know that Spurs are not a club where they are going to spend the kind of money that these men want to build well, I say build, or to create a team that's capable of challenging for stuff. They're not long-term builders. They want to go for the goal straight away. What direction do you think, looking at Spurs, are trying to go for? Because Pochettino was a build manager, and you've gone to two managers that's directly, I want to win, but you're not giving them, even though they're not completely blameless, but you're not giving them the facilities or the money, rather, I should say, to go forward and say, these are my players I want to win. Looking at the squad right now and thinking about what they're doing, what direction should they be really going for right now? Because Arsenal's crystal clear. Spurs looked like they were crystal clear and they fumbled the whole bag. What's gone wrong?
Look, I actually, like an idiot, thought that Tottenham were going to edge this game. I just thought, like Arsenal flying, Tottenham might edge this 2-1. For some reason, I thought Son, he's only turned up in one game this season, and that was off the bench against Leicester. He was going to do something. But this team just, they don't know. If games kick off an hour than they actually do, an hour later than they actually do, because the way they just don't turn up in first. I thought Arsenal were absolutely going to smash these guys. It just looked so easy for them. I'm just sitting there thinking, like, obviously Tottenham had a couple of chances, Son chance, Kane chance, Ramsdale did well. There's problems there because they're still above us, even though there's been problems there. Comes up our season. I don't know what direction they're coming. I don't know if or not leave he's going to give. He knows how Conte is. There's the character he was getting, but you're running through really, really good managers, and it's just not working. So there needs to be a clear out. Something just needs to be done to change things there, because I just don't understand what is going on at that club. If you can't get yourselves up for a North London derby, then there's absolutely no hope. Like Arsenal was strong. Those results against good teams are telling. The amount of defeats, draws, because last season we drew, I think we drew 6 of our games against the other teams, like the big from the big 6, whatever they label it now. And but no, there's just problems there. They need Maddison more than Liverpool do, because Kane is doing multiple jobs, and when you get a man, look, the numbers that Kane has got this season, if it wasn't for this outrageous things that Haaland are doing, this Kane is having an outrageous. I think he's only not scored in like 3 league games this season.
Yeah, he's been incredible.
And he's got double figures of assists as well.
Yeah.
You say, Darren?
He's got double figures of assists as well. I think he's got 13 assists on top of the goals.
No competitions as well. But because of this freak of nature Haaland is doing, no one's actually talking about it. If you just have creativity there and just allow Kane to sit in the under, look at that second goal against Palace. The way he controlled it and then smashed it on the corner so easily. It was so clinical. And he's sitting there and he needs help. So the worst thing to happen to Tottenham, sounds mad, was Son getting a taste of the golden boot, because that's just not been the same player this season. He's not making those same decisions that he made before. He's not releasing people early. He's hanging on to the ball too much. Last season, and this is partially like sentimental frustration. He was winning me and a lot of people money this season, because Sonta Kane came to some partnership. We were cleaning up the bookies with that. Yeah? I don't think that's happened this season. Right? And there's no fluidity to the pitch. So the big miss is Bentancur, because though he's meant to be a guy in the midfield and passes the ball and releases people, he was scoring a lot of goals in League and Champions League just before the World Cup. So they're missing him. But just in general, Conte saying things like he didn't want judgments in the first place. It was the ball gets behind him. Matt Doherty, Ryan Sessegnon is still young, and the fans are getting onto him every single time he touches the ball. It's just glaring, just like Liverpool, just glaring issues there. But the funny thing is, I think alternatively, Conte may just have his best. Well, already he has, because he's got out of the group stage, his best Champions League season, which will be like crazy.
Just about.
goals at the moment. Liverpool have been so dreadful in the league. Don't expect if they pull out some world of a performance and somehow get past Real Madrid, even though they've been absolutely hopeless in the league. Like football's just funny like that. But I just don't know with Tottenham. Like their fans must just be losing right by now because I honestly think many people think they're going to turn that we're going to do something to Arsenal, but Arsenal was strolling. They were just strolling at a stage, and Norris as well. Put Fraser Forster in goal, man. I said the thing ages ago. I don't care if Norris was played in the World Cup final or whatnot, because whenever Tottenham are playing good, someone just makes an error. Whether it be Dyer, whether it be Loris, if Davinson Sanchez might score, Emerson Whale, individual errors, just like what's happening with Liverpool at the moment. And then teams are putting the ball. If you get the luck, they don't put it in the goal, they do. But yeah, just like Liverpool, just big problems. There's big problems there. And I don't. Will Conte walk? He may, but I just he'll just slug it out a bit more to try and change people's perception of him always throwing his toys out the pram when he doesn't get what he wants and whatnot. But that was horrible to watch on Sunday.
I don't think Conte cares about people's perceptions. Personally, I don't think he gives a shit. Honestly, what I think is going to happen with Conte is going to give it this season. And if they don't say to him in the summer, we're going to spend the bag and get us in and amongst it, he's walking. And this is the eternal issue with Conte. Conte's taste in players is a bit iffy, but he always makes it work.
Yeah.
Always being in quotation marks, because this isn't happening at the moment. But the thing is, like, Arsenal always start off really quickly. They have done. It's been a fixture of their league campaign. One of the many reasons why they're doing so well this season is because they start off like a freight train. And they should have seen that coming. Spurs should have seen that coming and padded themselves for the game, but they didn't do that at all. And frankly, Spurs look devoid of ideas. And they are relying on being able to pull themselves out from having their backs against the wall too many times. And they're underachieving for a team and the manager as good as theirs. But I also think that there's some issues in and amongst the camp. A lot of noise today about Harry Kane basically saying, look, man, I ain't signing until I see something. And he ain't seen nothing. So it seems like he's probably going to go this summer.
Yeah.
Whether he goes to wherever he goes, we'll see. But it's...
You going to Man United?
Don't know. But to be honest with you, like there was a lot of things wrong with Spurs, which is kind of similarly to Everton. Isn't all Conte. Conte's underachieved this season, but let's be completely honest with you. Spurs hit their glass ceiling, but didn't smash it under Poch when they got to the Champions League final. But even before that, with the way that they were playing and coming third in the jokingly 2-horse race in the league, that was where they'd really got to a point, and they've kind of been on a slow but managed decline since Levy's tried to claw it back with big name managers, but no real coherent idea, which is again in contrast to Arsenal, who have a very clear idea of how they want to do things inside and outside the football pitch that Spurs just don't have. It was basically like a tale of two clubs in North London, and they were diametric opposites. It was so clear to see.
Yeah, I mean,
but yeah, I don't think Conte is Tottenham's manager, and I think Arsenal were great, and that's annoying because it's Arsenal. But I mean, they're just
that's why.
What can you say? What can you say about Arsenal that hasn't really been said all season? They start off well. They're incredibly consistent. They're fantastic on the ball. They're very technically fluid. They've got a lot of passion. Between the fans and the players, the relationship has not been better than it has been since maybe post Henri days.
Yeah.
From what I can remember, like the spirit in the Arsenal camp just generally is soaring. Everybody's defense is in trouble because Nketiah's in the room. Do you know what I mean? Like you got they're looking fantastic. They're looking fantastic.
I mean,
Odegaard, genuinely, I think if Arsenal win the league, Odegaard for me is player of the year, irrespective of what Haaland does. Irrespective, because he's having an incredible season. Incredible season. and he's downloading things that we didn't think he had. I didn't think he had that grass cutter shot from outside the box that he showed against Spurs, and he unlocked it. Like, he's just showing a completely different facet of his game, and they're growing, and the whole team's growing. Like, Gabriel's been fantastic recently. Xhaka's been consistent for Xhaka. Remember that. Xhaka's been consistent. Ben White is looking like one of the best right backs, even though he's a centre back, and even though he don't like football. Like, you got like Saka and Martinelli are basically telling everybody that they're the best young G's in the league. Like, you can't.
I mean, that's why I asked the question, because you're making the points that I think I've been screaming at people for a long time. You talk about hitting their ceiling on the Pochettino but not breaking it. And, you know, I think the time before they hit the Champions League final, he made a comment about changing the furniture around the club, essentially changing players because he saw something was coming that needed to be fixed. And even though Spurs have spent money since then, they haven't spent well. They haven't spent consistently. That can be many of reasons. Change of managers, all that. Arsenal have done change of manager as well, but obviously Arteta's now in his third season, if I'm correct, or maybe fourth. I don't know, one of the two. But he's been allowed to build an identity, rule with an iron fist in regards to players coming and going.
Fourth season.
What was that, sorry?
Fourth season.
Fourth season.
Third full season, but yeah.
Oh, so he's within his fourth season at the moment. Yeah, okay, there you go.
The FA Cup in
Yeah, you know, so you know he's been allowed to build something special, and Arsenal, and with that, when you have a manager that's allowed to build his identity and also able to identify players, he's found gems. I mean, obviously Darren mentioned Odegaard. Odegaard was signed for £30 million. That summer alone, they paid well for their patience, because Real Madrid told them no within the first 2 weeks of the summer, and then after suddenly it was 30 million. They grabbed their man, you know, and they built a team. They've built a squad, and yes, we do hear people talk about the if one person in the 11 gets injured, but regardless of the facts, the game results. Gabriel Jesus, a key member, part of how they play. They're still winning games, and Nketiah's still getting chances. So, more power to Arsenal. Spurs need to find themselves and wake up quickly, because there was a red rising.
So how's got a plan? And oh my god, it's fantastic.
Thank you. I'm learning from Kale. There was a red rising at Old Trafford, which hasn't been the best of times for Man United when City come to town. It's been a weird situation where City whacked Man United at Old Trafford, and then Man United will get a 1 or 2-1 win at City, and then occasionally get the drubbing that they usually get. But Man United win 2-1. A game full of controversies, especially considering offside.
Can we just say right now to avoid debate? It was offside. We know.
You know that not because of Liverpool, whatever that I was going to say it, because usually when something goes for your team, people will be like, "Oh, I don't care, whatever." But I've not spoken to one Man United fan yet who hasn't said that he was offside, and they would be absolutely fuming if it happened against their team, because if he didn't run towards the ball, I've got no problem with it, but he ran towards the ball.
Yeah,
also, he's obviously affecting play, because he's affecting the line that that Man City are playing, because Akanji sees his offside and slows down. Obviously, Ederson thinks he's going to shoot, so his position is based on where he thinks Rashford's going to be. So without touching the ball, he's obviously affecting play. However, to quote Stephen A. Smith, we don't care. We don't care.
We don't care.
I said Stephen A. Smith.
But you know what? Away from the controversy of that, I mean, obviously that's a huge talking point, because it changed the game. Man United got back into the game, and then Garnacho did his thing on the left, and Rashford made it 2-1. Rashford's in continuing fantastic goal scoring form. But the reason why I want to talk about Ten Hag in this situation is because obviously he experienced his first Manchester derby. What didn't go the way he wanted it to by any long shot. But he's coming to this game, and United looked, for the first time in about 8-9 years, maybe, they went with the idea of going a bit more, not completely, but a bit more toe-to-toe with City, in terms of they were getting the ball, playing out from the back a bit more, trying to create chances from the back to the front. It was very different, but also it was the way they held off the threat of Haaland. which is very key. Now, obviously, Haaland's
With Luke
been
Shaw at left centre back, with not their first choice defence. But do you know what that is? Do you know what it is? Man United looked well drilled for the first time since the Van Gaal era. Van Gaal era was a very well drilled. They were very well drilled. Everybody knew what they had to be, but it was terrible to watch. It was turgid. It was boring. That being said, this Ten Hag team, they look so well drilled. They had the spacing in between the lines was really, really tight. You had Fred doing like a the Herrera-esque man marking job on Kevin De Bruyne. You had the fact that even though City had the majority of the ball, which they do most games, if not all games, made out and wipe the floor on them on the expected goals. They create more high quality chances. And then you've also got the fact that we were making the best penalty box poacher in the world probably have to come in deep to get the ball, come towards halfway line to get attached to it. That when Ten Hag probably saw that for the first time, he probably thought, yeah, we're ready, because that showed that the plan was working. And I tell you what, whilst that was fantastic for Man United, that shows a bit of a problem that City have. They were way more direct in the 6-3, way more direct. And they haven't got that same directness. They lack pace. They're a very one-paced side. They don't have the same dynamism that they had. Going back to them not necessarily being 100% the same as Liverpool, but maybe nowhere near as dramatic, but the same sort of symptoms. Whereas Man United, I think Ten Hag has got it into them. Don't they want to be the group of players that want to bring Man United back? And I think that they've really bought into that. You can see with the way that they play and the way that they fancy it. Ten Hag has made some real difficult decisions, real tough decisions long before this game, whether it be Ronaldo, whether it be Maguire, whether it be when got the absolute drubbing by Brentford, joining them on the 10K run that he did, that apparently carried a lot of favour with him in the group. He's really been like, right, I'm leading, follow me or get out, and that's how it's going to go. And he's ruled with an iron fist, and everybody's taken to it. But but for me, the main thing is I haven't seen Man United look this tactically disciplined for a long time, long time. And to be honest, I think that is what's going to get them through, because there's a lot of talk about how Casemiro, Varane, Lisandro Martinez and Dalot and Garnacho and Rashford. There's a lot of talk about their individual performances across the season, but I think the main sticking point is how well drilled and how fantastic Man United look tactically now after the first few weeks. It's like he's basically giving them no choice but to listen to what they're doing, and they're listening to what he's doing and what they're telling him to do, and it's paying off by having leaders that have won everything, like Casemiro and Varane in your team, and for them to look so pumped playing for your team when Man United ain't been Man United in the sense the way that we know it for over 10 years, it was also something that's going to sort of really build the sort of sway towards Man United. But it's really looking good under Ten Hag.
Yeah, and double. Not only the tactical thing as well, but improvement of players. Obviously, when Klopp came in as well, you guys have to get through a lot of different players to get through to build your team. Obviously, I think Firmino was one of the key players that was there already when he joined the club. Obviously, Salah joined after Mane and the rest of it. But I'm sure you saw improvement in some players, regardless whether they stayed or they went. And I think it's not a secret that Man United fans are not fans of, for example, in recent times, Wan-Bissaka or Diego Dalot and those. So looking at how he's getting them playing, not only tactically, how big is the confidence thing for these players, considering how tumultuous the time has been at Old Trafford so far?
Yeah, this is what we were saying earlier about players being well coached. I was talking about the Zerbi, for instance, and then secondly we spoke about Eddie Howe as well in regards to what he's done with especially Julen and Almiron, but with some of the players there. United now can be, as you said, being tactically sound. they can beat teams in different ways now. When they won earlier in the season against even Saturday second half, because as you said, first half, as Darren said, first half you kind of went toe to toe with City in places, but that second half, the timing of that equaliser was just as City had grown into the game. So I think at best that game's a draw unless that goal happens at that exact time. Because I don't know what got into Cancelo at half time, but he started getting the ball and just chopping your players going forward, trying to lay it off and link. De Bruyne was getting into spaces. But now United don't look disheartened when they go behind. Like last season, you look at Anfield, we made it 1-0, and then like you look was like the game was over after 4 minutes. Now there's punch and there's fight. And there's fight there. And with the form that Rashford's in, you can get like Wolves the other day. I thought maybe at best Rashford's come and tippy-toed through and then smashed it into the goal. And that's what I'm talking about, that bit of magic. When you're well coached, that's what you can do. You can edge games 1-0, 2-1 because of a bit of magic for someone. But I thought Wan-Bissaka was on his way out. He might still be. There's still 2 weeks of the window left. But the last few games he's played, he's done well. I mentioned earlier Luke Shaw playing as a left-sided centre half. This is the Shawshank redemption, isn't it? Because I was saying he didn't want him. He didn't want him there. It would seem he wasn't playing him. He bought Malacia. You lot had 3 left backs at a stage. You know, Big Sammy had 3 left backs at a stage, but then obviously you let Tellers go. And realistically, it's looking like Arsenal's league at the moment. But if anyone thinks that they can catch them, don't say City. But United and Newcastle are close to City, so that means that they're involved too. People that want to admit it, I've even asked Big Sam and I said, I'm in the title race. He doesn't want to say yeah, but they've just beat City. They're 1 point behind them now. You get what I'm saying? But the main thing
I don't want to say yeah. I wouldn't say yeah either. I think what we need to do as Man United is expectation management and let Ten Hag cook. And let everything else follow. Honestly, I would say no. We're just focusing on getting back to the top 4 and getting the Glazers out and see what we do on the new ownership that willing to spend a little bit of money that is actually their money. And not maxing out the club's credit cards. And go from there, because I really do think that maybe anything above 3rd is us really overshooting where we currently are at the moment. I was expecting to, I would have been happy with 5th this season, honestly. So Ten Hag being where he is now with Man United is basically way above my expectations. But I always knew he was the guy. I always thought he was going to make it work. I just thought it was going to take a little bit longer. But with the way things are happening now, and with the change of ownership on the horizon, who knows where Man United could be, but we need to keep our expectations low and not get carried away. Maybe try and win a domestic cup this season. Just be happy with that.
Bar being beaten by Villa, though, this is a big recovery from that Brentford game early on in the season. Casemiro, but anyone who watches the league knows how good he is, but Eriksen, I've only seen Eriksen not have a great game once or twice this season, and one of them was that Brentford game. Very important, brings composure to the midfield. I would have taken him with both hands at Liverpool. You get what I'm saying? And just a control now. You can beat people and not have the ball like City, like Arsenal, for instance, at Old Trafford. But also as well, when you play the Forest and the Bournemouths, you can dominate possession and you're actually shooting more and looking more, showing more conviction when you're coming forward. Because sometimes you don't play against, especially last season, just sideways, pass, sideways, sideways. And then it's like a little burst from Fred or something like that, or a long range shot from McTominay. There wasn't really much there, but now doing bits. And I think Weghorst will work because people say, oh, you only scored 2 in 20 at Burnley, with people giving him the ball, and he's a decent link-up man from side as well. I think he's going to get some goals for you guys. So I'd be optimistic right now if I was a fan, which hurts me to say that, but I'd be optimistic.
The Weghorst side also allows us to attack teams differently that want to sit back. And so we can use his aerial prowess with balls out wide. We also can use him to sort of continue with the pressure. He's a better presser. He's a better presser than Martial, which isn't saying much. even though Martial's pressing has got better considerably under Ten Hag, it's still not saying much because it's Anthony Martial. But yeah, I think it's really going to do a good thing for Man United records. I think he'll probably get up to 6 or 7 as well, which I think he'll be happy with.
Yeah. Well, if Man United beat Palace and then beat Arsenal, the podcast next week might be a very, very chesty podcast. But we'll get to that. We'll get to that next week.
Yeah, those games I won't be watching.
But we'll wrap up here because of course there is going to be a game. Well, there are a couple of games on TV right now. For anyone that is interested in the FA Cup, you got Forest Green Rovers versus Birmingham City, Swansea versus Bristol, Wigan versus Luton at 8:00. West Brom versus Chesterfield. But right now on the BBC, Double D's team are away to Wolves in this is a replay.
Used to Wolves.
Liverpool's team quickly for you: Kelleher, Milner, Gomez, Konate, Tsimikas, Keita, Stefan Bajcetic. Am I saying that correct?
Bajcetic, yep.
Yeah, awesome. Thiago, Harvey Elliott, Cody Gakpo starts again, and Fabio Carvalho. And for Wolverhampton Wanderers, Jose Sarr, Lembikisa, that's how you say his name, Nathan Collins, Totti Gomez, Johnny, Adama Traore, Jean Moutinho, Ruben Neves, Joe Hodge, Ait Nouri, and Raul Jimenez. And yeah, I think we'll wrap up there. So firstly, again, thank you for joining us, of course, on this channel, on this show, Free Midfield, the match report. Obviously, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. All the audio will be out very, very soon. Double D, before you go, plug yourself, sir.
You can't see it visually. My personal handle is at Double D. That's DUBULDEE, and that's me on all social media. And I am part of the D&D Football Factory, and we go live on a Saturday morning on Top FM. That's 95.5 FM in London. But if you're not in London, probably best to listen to it on the TuneIn app. Just type in On Top FM. You should be subscribed to it already anyway. And yeah, we go live on a Saturday morning at 10 a.m. That's me, D-Man, and Big Sammy, who's locked into this podcast right now for your football banter. You get the odd podcast and whatnot as well. But yeah, man, holla.
Awesome. And Darren, anything to plug or?
I got nothing to plug.
All right. Well, Darren's things on private anyway, so if you try and follow him, go away. But of course, Darren say something? I think Darren was about to say something, but it's stuck.
I think he's frozen.
Yeah, he's frozen. Well, Darren, you'll say something before you go?
There he is.
Just listen to Free Midfield. If you want to do anything, do that.
Listen to Free Midfield. That'll make you happy. That'll make you live good. Free Midfield podcast on all the audios, all the socials, and on YouTube, the Match Report. But of course, I can always say, if you type in Free Midfield podcast, you'll find us there for all your good stuff, for all the interviews and all the analysis. Free Midfield. I've been Kojo. He's been Darren. He's been Double D. I wish you a farewell.